Welcome everybody to this web series about the ECIU University at the University of Twente. I'm Rianne Kaptein, local ambassador of the ECIU University. Today, the first episode will be hosted by Raymond Lohuis, who's a teacher at BMS. Raymond, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your role in the ECIU University?
Thank you very much, Rianne, for the introduction. Yes, my name is Raymond Lohuis. I'm engaged in the ECIU for 1.5 years now. I'm contributing to pilots, where we really experiment with challenge-based learning, working with stakeholders and with students and with teachers. And I'm also contributing to the strategy development of the ECIU. In a way, the ECIU wants really to change the European educational landscape. It's a very large project, and today we're going to discuss the first experiences with ECIU and also what the ECIU can mean for the University of Twente. And in this series, in this episode, we are going to interview a couple of important stakeholders in the ECIU, including an external stakeholder who was a part of a pilot. And we also collected some nice clips, interesting clips from teachers and students about their experience in the ECIU.
That sounds really interesting and promising. Let's have a look.
So let's now turn to our first guest in the studio. It's a virtual guest, Sander Lotze. You are director of the ECIU University. Sander, could you say something about what the ECIU University is all about?
Yes, ECIU University is one of the first European universities. And what we try to do is to use the collective intelligence of all of the 12 universities and bringing them all together. And at the same time, thinking about what a modern university at European level is actually able to deliver. And for that reason, we try to search for the concept of challenge-based learning, challenge-based research, and challenge-based innovation, because we believe that our current society is facing a number of big challenges. And when we use all of the collective knowledge that we have as 12 universities, we think we are able to help society to actually to start solving some of those challenges.
Okay. And why would this challenge-based thinking be such an important vehicle in this pursuit?
Yeah, that is because we actually think and believe that, for example, the learning that we are currently offering in our universities is very much concentrated in output, so in getting a degree. Whereas the society, and I think also individuals, are really in need of a more personalized way of learning and education. And by challenge-based learning, we think that we have found a way to actually connect the individual needs of learners with the needs of society.
Okay, and when talking about society, stakeholders have a crucial role in the ECIU University. They actually participate in challenge-based learning and research and innovation. So let's go to Kostas first. He is a teacher in one of the modules in which we experiment also with challenge-based learning, with the involvement of stakeholders. What he has to say about this.
Most of the external stakeholders I work with, and I have to say that during the process of implementing CBL, we actually came closer to our external stakeholders. Because in the past, they used to be this overarching person or company that gives us a problem and then they go. And then they come at the end to judge if we manage to address the problem. With CBL now, we have the stakeholders very much involved. And this is something that we appreciate, and it's something that they also appreciate. And that's the feedback I heard last year when it was the first time I applied CBL to some extent, that the stakeholders enjoyed the educational process and that they also managed to learn something from us and from the students mostly. So working with external stakeholders in the context of CBL is a very interesting process because from what we hear from them, they are able to learn from us and from the students.
So Kostas, also rightfully mentioned that it's not only about the outcome, not only about solutions, it's also about enjoyment for a part, but also learning. So as a part of the learning process. So stakeholders, external societal stakeholders, are not passive receivers of a kind of product from the university. But he also mentioned that this way of continuous learning with each other, and in the ECIU University, this notion of ecosystem, collaboration, international level, it's also there. Could you elaborate on how this might work for an individual stakeholder?
Yeah, well, ECIU University is actually about building an ecosystem. It is about not only about bringing together 12 universities and all of the staff, researchers and learners, but it is actually also about bringing our stakeholders together and getting the demand for innovation, the demand for research and expertise together and connecting that with all of the things that we can offer in an ecosystem together. And that is true. It is a lifelong endeavor because we believe that learning is not only something you do between your 19th and your 23rd, but it's actually something which you repeatedly do throughout your life. And for now, universities have always been a little bit, let's say, traditional in that sense, but the ECIU University tries to engage people throughout their life because during your working as a stakeholder, there are things that you learn and that you can give back to other people, give back to actually try to solve challenges. So in that sense, the ecosystem tries to be a big lifelong learning network.
Sander, what is the main reason that the ECIU University is founded?
Well, ECIU University is founded because we believe that universities have to stick together or come together to also have a relevant position in, let's say, the future world of higher education. What we see is that there are a lot of private providers, especially online, are getting into the space of higher education. And that's fine, but we think that we as research-intensive universities can actually add something to what is currently done by private providers online. And it's very important that we do that because that what we can offer to our students and to learners and to society is actual factual-based research, quality-controlled education, what we can offer. And I think that is, compared to what others are currently doing, a big beneficial of what we can add.
Thank you very much, Sander, for this answer. Indeed, this is a clear trend, and we can see it right now in front of us happening. But is it also the case that you need to collaborate with many universities in order to, let's say, prepare for this future?
Well, that is a good question. I think that it is important to collaborate inside of Europe because there's a number of shared values that we have in Europe, which is very important to see that in the type of education that we can offer. And what we are offering in ECIU University is not only a digital version, it is also about real collaboration. Especially in this time around the corona crisis, we see how important it is to really meet each other, to collaborate, and only in that way you can actually be innovative and creative. And the European University is actually a way to collaborate and not only do that online, but to come together at the stakeholders to start trying to create solutions for the real challenges of the future.
So, in fact, what you're saying is that these challenges are not limited to the national boundaries. They require a more European approach. And in that sense, combining all these assets from the ECIU partners together, make them more complementary, can really help solving these problems, at least to some extent, of course. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your valuable answers. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Tot ziens.
So we also invited external stakeholders to this episode today. And in ECIU terms, we call them challenge providers. So today we invited Dick Engbers. Dick Engbers, you are from the Agar Holding company. Could you perhaps introduce the company?
Yes, I can. Well, we are a company in the east of the Netherlands. The name Agar Holding. To our group of companies, we have 10 companies with concrete, dry mortar products and more cement-related products for the business in the east of the Netherlands, but for some companies also for the whole of the Netherlands and a part of Germany we deliver. So it's basic products for the building industry.
Okay, yes. I know because we have been working on challenges from your company, at least as a challenge provider, you brought in some interesting topics which we could, let's say, work on together. I was one of the coordinators of this module. So my question is, what was your experience working on these challenges with students and also with coaches in this module?
Well, it was the first time for me to work with students from the university. And we did not know exactly what to expect in the beginning, but we were looking for new ideas for our companies. We had a challenge. We discussed before, of course, what kind of challenge we would give to the students. And it came to a very nice, I think, projects for 2 projects at our company. And what we were looking for were new ideas, things. We are a company with a lot of staff working for a long time for our company, thinking in a specific way, we guess, after all these years. But we were looking for new ideas. Yeah. So that was for us the experience for us to see if students could bring us new ideas.
Yeah, so more this out-of-the-box thinking.
Exactly, yeah. Out of the box was very what we were looking for in the end.
Can you say something about the nature of these challenges? What were these challenges all about?
Yes, we had 2 challenges. One of the challenges was concerning people, more of finding new people, because we are also in a market which is probably not so sexy for most of the students. So we also want to show them what we are doing and to see that it is an interesting kind of business we're doing. But because it's difficult sometimes for us to find new staff, and not only to find them, but also to keep them for working for our company. So we would like to show students also what we're doing, and if it's probably interesting for them also for in the future. So that was one of the reasons for us to participate in this project. Another reason was also to come to new out-of-the-box ideas. So that's the reason why we would like to cooperate in this project. And the other project was more based on the market and products. It's not the project where I was in. I was in the first project with the people, but also that brought to us a lot of new ideas. So it was very interesting.
So that's really interesting, because it's not only for your innovation agenda, for the solutions, but also for the learning experience, this dynamic process, and also for, perhaps, if I may say so, recruiting future staff for your company.
Right. I think it's an educational thing, not only for the students, but also for our own staff, because we come in contact with new kind of ideas. So it was very educational for our own staff also to participate in these projects.
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation. So we also asked Robin to respond to his experience in one of the autumn challenges, the ECIU Autumn Challenge of last year, about this dynamism, this learning process, and what it means for being engaged with stakeholders, external stakeholders, in challenge-based learning.
Something that I found very special about my experience within the Autumn Challenge was the ability to work with experts, practitioners, and stakeholders from the field. As I mentioned before, my challenge was focused about the city of Enschede and how to become more of a circular economy. And our project supervisors were 2 policy writers from the city. And these were real people who we were able to work with. We were able to bounce our ideas off. And they also helped us with writing and advising policy and creating scenarios in which these policies could be placed. And next to that, in the research phase, we were able to meet with many different stakeholders, both from the business side of things or the academic side, to really create a picture. And I think this also is an extra step outside of what I would normally do in my university degree, in the sense that I was able to collect information from the people who really care about it, and the things that we thought of as solutions would potentially affect the people that we spoke to.
Okay, so this means that the challenge provider is not only a passive receiver of a solution, but is pretty much engaged in the learning process, as you also observed. I'm a little bit puzzled with the question of, now you have these solutions, these ideas, out-of-the-box ideas. What are you going to do with it? And perhaps another question, is it worthwhile to pursue these projects further?
Yeah, well, there's 2 things, of course. The solutions where our students came with for concerning our staff, our people, were very interesting. They learned us to use new kind of tools, also to communicate with our staff. One of the problems they pinpointed very at the beginning of the project already was that one of the bigger problems for our company is to have a good communication with our own staff. That was really a thing, and really important also to keep staff happy at the company. And we discussed it further with them, and they came to very interesting tools how to better communicate with them. One of the very simple thing was only using polls to know what people expect from us. Sometimes we, as a management, we decide things, and we think, okay, we do this or we do that, but we don't know very often how people react on that. And with this simple tool as using a poll gives us also idea if people think the same as we do. As we say, okay, we have three possible solutions. Solution one is the solution we would like to choose for as a management, but probably a second and a third one. What do the people expect? When the people expect also the first one, the same as we don't have anything to say to them and we can do this. Yeah. But when the people expect something else, then we have more to tell to them why we choose another direction. Yeah. So, and this tool, this is a very simple tool, is something we really think we can use in the future very good. Yeah.
So it triggers the thinking about how you can, let's say, collaborate with staff, right, and how to create a kind of esprit de corps in your organization. And I can imagine, because many people are working at site, construction sites, and also in the logistics, so you don't have them always at your disposal or nearby in that sense. So keep them involved is a very important feature.
Stay in contact.
Competitive advantage of your company, yeah. But okay, there was this app, the solution. It was developed, but how is it going to be picked up in your?
Well, we have to start now a process to choose what kind of solution we finally going to want to use. We have to, the students came with more possible solutions, more applications available, software applications. And we have to choose which one fits the best for us for our company, and that's in the situation we're now. But we really want to make a choice on that and see how we can use it in the future.
So you see that it would make sense to continue the collaboration, also putting students on challenges, collaborating, learning, interesting solutions, and also for this recruitment. So to continue the relationship with the ECIU. Can you also imagine that in the future that we build kind of learning communities with industrial partners in the supply chain, for instance, with construction companies, so who make houses and roads? When you look at the future technologies, Internet of Things and all these things that you can learn and thrive in such what I would call learning clusters, learning communities. Could you perhaps reflect on this?
Well, that's really an interesting idea, because what we've seen is that a lot of things are coming together with students from different kinds of backgrounds as they have. They bring a lot of ideas together. Yeah. And what we also see, for us interesting, is that we are now working with relative younger people. We have a lot of people working at the company, working for a long time, much older people also. And what interesting is what we see also just working with students is that they have other ideas, also other expectations from the future. And one of the things they're very busy with is sustainability. And that's just one of the things which is in our business. The industry, the building industry, is not so very progressive. There are a lot of things happening at the moment, but we're still in the background of that. And to bring students together with our branch, the industry, our industry, can be very interesting probably for the future. Also, so a community together with students, and probably more than our company, more of our industry, can be very interesting, I guess.
Yeah, and I can imagine that that does not only contribute to your strategic position of the organization, but it contributes to the position of this entire industry.
I think that's very important for us, not just for us, for our company, but for the whole industry. Yeah, to have a good future, because our future is also the future of students. So
yeah. Well, that sounds very great.
That's what we expect, and it would be very nice to work together on that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we turn to the next guest in the studio, and we have invited Freek van der Meer. Welcome, Freek.
Thank you, Raymond.
Yeah, Freek, can you introduce yourself and also what your role and position is in the ECIU University?
Yeah, sure. My name is Freek van der Meer. I am the Dean of the Faculty ITC of the University of Twente. I'm the sponsoring Dean of the Shaping Expert Group Innovation of Education. I'm the chairman of the steering committee of the ECIU at the University of Twente, and I'm representing the University of Twente in the Vice President's Research Council of the ECIU.
Okay, thank you very much, Freek. Yeah, that's a lot of work for the ECIU.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. So let me just start with the first question. Perhaps it's a difficult one, I don't know. But what can the ECIU do for the University of Twente?
That's a difficult question. I think ECIU is relevant for the University of Twente at 3 different levels. At the UT level, it's really the motor for innovation of education. I think at the regional, at the national level, ECIU is an important motor for stimulating collaboration with partners in the region and also linking the university stronger to society and societal challenges. And I think most importantly, ECIU is very important at a European level because it's developing this concept of a European university. And in that context, the University of Twente is part of a pioneering group of universities developing a European-wide university concept.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. This brings me a bit to the role of teachers or scientific staff in the ECIU. To me, and also based on my own experience, it's different from what we usually do in educational practices and research projects, etc. Could you reflect on the benefits for scientific staff of being engaged in the ECIU?
Yeah, I think one of the key aspects for me for ECIU is that it really works on societal challenges. And the key benefit for staff to work on societal challenges is to really see in the real world what the difference is that their domain and their skills make in the context of solving these societal challenges. I think another aspect is networking. Because ECIU is a networked organization and it partners with many universities and other stakeholders, it's an excellent opportunity for our staff to engage with partners. Mm-hmm. And another aspect, which I think is very important for staff, is actually to work in a multidisciplinary team. Sort of equal partnership between students, staff, external stakeholders, society. Which means that for staff, they work more as a tutor rather than as a supervisor. So they have to adapt their role, develop certain competences, and I think that's really important in terms of lifelong learning of our own academic staff.
Yeah, so it's a different role, different competences, specific competences to thrive in such multidisciplinary, let's say, environments, learning and research environments. But also benefits, so more cutting edge on what happens in society, network capital can be developed. So let's go to Kostas. Kostas is one of the teachers involved in a challenge-based learning ECIU project from last year. And let's hear what he has to say about this.
I'm a new teacher at the UT, so I do not have a lot of experience with teaching. I teach only for 2-3 years. And mostly my coordination and my teaching had to do with interacting with external stakeholders. That I value a lot because for me it creates a lot of opportunities. For example, future collaborations, future projects, meeting interesting people in the end, which is what academia is all about. And also helps me bring new perspectives in my studies and not becoming obsolete. So it really helps us keep our education modern, to the point, and not lost in a deep academic maze, let's say. So we bring education closer to reality.
Kostas brings it really nicely to the point.
I think he echoes what I said, and I like the academic maze. I will try to use that as well. It's a very interesting group.
It's a nice expression. There's another stakeholder group involved in the ECIU, which are, of course, the students. So could you elaborate on what the benefits are for students being engaged in the ECIU?
I think the key thing of ECIU, again, it works on real problems in the real world, things that matter in society. So students that are engaged in ECIU work on societal problems that are really relevant. They make the world a little bit better, a bit more sustainable. I think that's really things that intrinsically motivates our students. Another thing I think they will learn, and maybe not something that upfront they think is really relevant, is working in those multidisciplinary teams with other students from other disciplines, external stakeholders, and also people from and in society. It will trigger development of their skills, but more important, it will trigger development of their competences. And I think with these competences, they are really equipped to start a career in society. So I think that's a key benefit for our students.
Yeah. So students already make a mark on the world by being engaged, working on real-life challenges, and at the same time develop valuable competences for their future careers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they develop their capital for the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also they are engaged in the market.
Yeah.
They're part of society.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. We collected some experiences of one of these students who participated in the Autumn Challenge last year, and let us hear about his experiences.
I think, as I mentioned earlier, working in a team is a very important part of the challenge-based learning concept. And for me, being able to work with people from not only different universities, but also from different cultures and nationalities was a great experience as well. Because throughout, like I said, we were learning about circular economy, but it was also an opportunity to get to know new people and get to know about their field, because they were also very multidisciplinary students. I was working with someone who's doing mechanical engineering, industrial design, but also chemistry, just to give an idea of the broadness of the rest of my team. And I think it was an eye-opener for me to see what else is out there in this academic world, what other paths I could have taken or I can still take in the future.
So Robin also attests for this working, collaborating with others, with stakeholders and also students with different backgrounds. He also mentioned this international experience. So yes, you also reflected on this rightfully. Another question that brings me to the next topic is more this assessment idea. So how do students know that they really obtained these skills and competences and knowledge levels that we want them to reach by participating in the ECIU? And in this regard, I'm talking about micro-credentials. Could you say something about this notion of micro-credentials?
yeah, I can try to say something about micro-credentials, although it's a very, very specific topic. For me, it's a kind of certificate that demonstrates that people have reached a certain learning outcome or have developed a certain skill or developed a certain competence. It's a very flexible system, micro-credentialing. It allows really students to develop their own learning path, which could be within a university or between universities. Mobility could be part of it. Engagement with stakeholders in society can be part of it. So it's really a flexible tool for the students. On the other hand, it also allows us to engage with the lifelong learners. So lifelong learners can also develop competences and earn micro-credentials. So in that way, the university also engages with its alumni and also with other partners in companies and so on. Yeah. So I actually see the classroom of the future being a mix of students and lifelong learners in this whole idea of micro-credentialing. Yeah. So it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, that's a very interesting answer, and also can imagine how all these different learners participate, each one following their own learning paths, their own competence profile, what they're working on. And do you also consider micro-credentials totally replacing the value of diplomas?
That's a tricky question. Yeah. That's a tricky question. I don't know. I think both could actually coexist yeah. in my opinion. Yeah. Because in the end of the day, you also need a diploma, but you also need to have certain competences and skills yeah. and develop that. Yeah. What I do see the benefit actually of this multidisciplinary classroom of students and lifelong learners. I think they can learn from each other quite a lot, because the students, they have more like, let's say, the state-of-the-art academic knowledge, and the lifelong learners have all this work experience. Bringing that together is yeah. really a strong yeah. asset also of the whole idea of ECIU.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Freek, for your valuable answers in this episode. And I wish to see you another time in this studio.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, welcome.
In this episode, we learned about what the ECIU University is, what it can mean for the University of Twente, and how stakeholders can benefit from it. What was most striking to learn for you, Raymond?
Oh, thank you very much for this question. It's a difficult one because it was quite overwhelming. We have heard a lot of stories, of course, from our studio guests, but also from the teacher and from Robin, the student, and the teacher was Kostas in this, and also the responses of our studio guests to these clips. But in summary, I think that the ECIU University can be of a great asset for the University of Twente, especially in developing strong ties in the region with stakeholders at the national level, of course, regional, national, but also at the European level, since we are, let's say, a very big, large player in Europe, connected universities and building this ecosystem. So I think that is very valuable, also for innovation and for valorization. And we increase thereby our societal relevance in a very innovative way. And I think this is a very strong one. But we also have to look at the stakeholders involved. So we have the external parties. And I think for them, if we really want them to thrive in the ecosystem, we have to take care of these relationships that we have. Like Dick, for instance, he said, well, he also wants to kind of continue the story, continue the solution brought by the students, and to think about how can we implement it, or perhaps new challenges may arise and provided by them. So how can we develop long-standing relationships and thereby increasing our capital? I think that is a very important question, and it is foreseen in the ECIU, but there is also a moment where strategy or vision meets practice, and we have to, let's say, work on these intersections a lot. The other point is teachers. Well, challenge-based learning is something different than frontal teaching, so traditional teaching practices, and I think we have a responsibility to teachers as well. It's very interesting, like Kostas also mentioned, to work on challenges, to work with stakeholders, cutting edge, what happens in society, but at the same time, teachers, trainers, educators need to be equipped in doing this sufficiently. And I think we have a responsibility towards them as well, because it's not always easy to supervise or to coach a challenge-based team. Yeah, that would be it.
And you're a teacher yourself, Raymond. So what does it mean for students? What does it implicate for students?
Yeah. Now, I think the learning experience is there. We have also some interesting testimonials from students, not only from Robin here in the studio, but also from our own students who have been involved in pilots, ECIU pilots or challenge-based learning pilots at the University of Twente. But the question is, how can we attest for these learning experience? So what kind of assessment methods are appropriate in order to really ensure that students have obtained specific skills which are important to them in the future? And I think we also should look at these tools that we need to develop also in order to get a kind of accreditation for micro-credentials that it is truly valid what we do. And this is, let's say, my students might also question and ask this in the future. And I think this is a very important topic as well.
Thank you for watching the first episode of the ECIU University mini-series. We're going to wrap up by asking the rector how he feels about the ECIU University and challenge-based learning.
Well, as you've heard before, the University of Twente is very active within the ECIU network, and we have our shared ambitions to become a European university. And one of the developments what we try to achieve is innovate our education. And one of the ways to do this is, as you have seen, is challenge-based education or challenge-based learning. And for UT, we also have ambitions within our own Shaping 2030 strategy, and that includes also a lot of innovation in our educational directions. And very nicely you see joining up of the initiatives from the University of Twente with the ECIU initiative. And if we combine this, we can strengthen each other, and together we can become front runners in both initiatives. And if you are inspired by the examples you've seen in the movie, we invite you to participate. But even you can be inspired by maybe colleagues or maybe by challenges offered by the students. So we, as an executive board, invite you to join these initiatives and to participate and to contribute your own innovative take on our shared ambition. Thank you.